Oh my God, this book is so good. Hello everyone, welcome to Harry's Book Cafe. Today let's talk about At Home with the Horrors by Sammy Scott. This book is marketed as a 14 short story collection. In fact, it's 13 short stories plus a novella. Sammy Scott is a brand new author to me. I tried to find more information about him online, but unfortunately the information is quite scarce. All I know is that At Home with Horrors is his debut publication. Since then he has published another novel called Beta, A Technological Nightmare, which I'm absolutely looking forward to read. Short story, I think, has been an art form that's been overlooked over the years. I remember when I was young, there's numerous amounts of short story. However, over the last couple of decades, this form of storytelling has really sort of fallen out of the map of the literary world. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. For instance, Stephen King, during his career, he has published so many short story collections. I have read vast majority of them and I enjoyed most of them. The other exception is Roald Dahl. In fact, Roald Dahl has really illustrated my point because Roald Dahl's story is a very old, and during his generation, short story has been really appreciated much more than it is today. Roald Dahl short stories are so twisted and so enjoyable. I have read all of them and enjoy all of them. Over the years, I find that anthologies with short stories sometimes can be a little bit hit and miss because it's written by different writers and therefore the writing styles can vary significantly. Story collections written by the same author is generally speaking better than anthologies, and this At Home with Horrors is no exception. In fact, I think this is one of the best short story collections I have read in a very long time. It is equally as good, if not better, than Stephen King's and Roald Dahl's collection. There are 13 short stories and one novella. All of them are really good. However, out of those 13 short stories, 5 really stood out as exceptions. I will ignore the other stories and focus on these 5. I'm going to list them in 3 different categories. One of them is being how creepy they are, so creepiness. The other one is how scary they are. And the last one is the best short story that I have ever read. Okay, so without further ado, let's dig into the first category. So creepiness, we have The Sisters and Peeping Tom. Now The Sisters is really well told story involving bereavements, and the lines of creepiness is always quite steady and it really jumped towards the end of the story. You got this massive shock of, oh wow, I did not see that coming. That was really scary. In fact, the last minute is quite scary and I really enjoyed that. It reminds me of a movie, which I'm not going to tell you because the moment I tell you which movie that is, you will get the story. The next one in the same category is Peeping Tom. Now, Peeping Tom is slightly different to The Sisters because the creepiness is sort of start from 0 point and all the way steadily increasing throughout the story. And that creepiness just builds and I really enjoy that. It basically involved this sort of primary school boy, no older than 11, and he sort of by chance start to peeping into people's houses and see what their life is like. And one day he peeped into the wrong house and see something that he should not see. Really creepy what he saw. It's not what you think. Really creepy. And he ran home and he realized that he left his school bag outside the house. But when his mom came back, there's a massive surprise. And I did not see that coming. I really felt that chill when the mom came back to the house. I really enjoyed that book. Absolutely phenomenal. That story rather. There are 2 candidates, once again. First is Teresa. Now, Teresa is a fantastic story. I really enjoyed it. It basically involves of this female protagonist, newly married, calling her husband, or her husband calling her during his lunch break. And they were, because they're newly married, they're still in that sort of honeymoon period and start talking about trivial things. And there's lots of laughter, there's lots of love in that conversation. You can hear it immediately. However, during that conversation, her husband got killed by a really vengative, unhappy employee who killed everyone, and her husband is one of them. He was hiding in the bathroom. So the wife heard the whole thing during the phone conversation and it's really, really well done. She was bereaved, she was really sad, and the next day she received the phone call from her husband again. And it's as if her husband was not aware of what's going on in his life, start repeating the same conversation they were having. And she was basically trying to save him by telling him to get out of the office, get out of the office. Now, the first couple of times that failed, and one of the time succeeded, and he came back to life. It really reminds me of Pet Cemetery. It's not the same, however, it's not the same. It's vastly different, but along the same sort of line. Really well done, really, really creepy. Every time the phone rings, I feel the heart pumping, just like the female protagonist. Fantastic. The next one is really the most scary short story I've ever read, and that's Becca. In fact, it reminds me very much of Stolen Town. I've done a review here by Johnny's Book Cafe quite a few months ago. The audio wasn't really, really good, but still have a look if you want to. It was the scariest book I've ever read, and this story, similar, and is very, very scary. It's the scariest short story I have ever read. Basically involves a couple sleeping in their home, and one night the husband wakes up, went to the bathroom, came back to the bed, and realized, or thought he realized, that he saw someone standing outside the window. They live in a very isolated place, no neighbors, next to a forest, and he stood by the window and looking outside and can see this silhouette staring back at him on the edge of forest. That has been going on back and forth for a couple of days, and the story develops. Really, really scary, really scary. It also has one of the biggest twists I've ever seen in a short story, or in any book, in fact, and I really enjoyed that book. You will not see that coming. It will make your head explode. It's so good, so good, so good. Read that book, please. Short story, really, really good. The last category, the best short story I've ever read, belongs to the short story called Rebirth. This simply is phenomenal. It's so good. The concept is really, really new. I can't stress how much I enjoy this book. I enjoyed it so much, in fact, I forced my daughter to read it. She's only 10, sorry. She's only 10, and I forced her to read it, and she enjoyed it. I forced my wife to read it. She enjoyed it. Phenomenal book. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, because I want you to enjoy that. I do 100% recommend that you read this book. I know short story is not everyone's cup of tea, but please, please, please read this book. You will not regret it. You will not regret this short story. Even if out of this book you're going to read one single short story, please make it Rebirth. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. All I'm going to say is, after I read it, I sat down and actually took some time to think about the story. Its imaginative tentacle really sort of slithers into the realms of philosophy concerning repercussions, consequences of actions. That's all I'm going to say. It's phenomenal. Read it. Philosophical. Really philosophical afterwards. The novella is 120 pages. It's quite a long novella, absolutely phenomenal, really creepy throughout. It gets quite scary towards the end, and has a rather sad ending. I think the story is somewhat inspired by the Japanese book, The Ring, along a similar sort of line, if you know what I mean. So it centers on this female protagonist who is a newly hired librarian. One day she finds this black leather-bound book that belongs not to the library nor any customers, and she took it home, started reading it, and basically it's a very long poem involving or describing a very nasty boy. But reading that book has a consequences. I'm not going to say beyond that. It is really good, really creepy. I enjoyed that novella very, very much. In fact, the writer has a sense of humor. The first sentence of that novella is, "Do not read this book." Come on, when someone says that, you have to read it, right? That's the end of the review. Sammy Scott has a great talent, has a gift of grabbing your attention. His sentences are short, language are simple, very effective. There are numerous sentences and paragraphs that I read in the story. I just thought, wow, I'm so jealous. I wish I can be so succinct, deliver the message with so few words, and so effective. I'm so impressed. In fact, I've told my wife to read some of the sentences, and one of them is about describing this woman shutting the door of the car in a deserted street, and how the voice, the sound of the shutting the door echoes down the street. And I can picture the scene so vividly in my head. He's a great, great writer. Amazing, amazing. And that is why I can't wait to read his next novel, Beta, Technological Nightmare. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about this particular book. I do recommend wholeheartedly to you guys to read this book. Is unbelievable. Unbelievably enjoyable. 5-star. It is very rare for me to give out 5 stars, and this one is definitely one of them. Highly recommended. Before I go, I would like to let you know that I also have a travel channel called Global Hopper, and if you like that sort of thing, please have a look. I put the link in the description down below. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this brief review. Until next time, cheerio.